Nationals plan to make gang members cover face tattoos with foundation. Ludicrous, expert says. This plan comes under fire with and may face legal challenges, with veteran legal academic and retired lecturer Dr. Bill Hodge telling Newshub the idea is ridiculous and ludicrous. I've got a lot of respect for Mark Mitchell, but I think the possibility of requiring a form of makeup, whether it's a base and foundation on people for what they have historically had on their body or on their face, has got intrinsic and pragmatic and human rights issues. He said the pragmatic issue is what happens if the person gets caught in rain? What happens if it starts to run? What happens if they don't have a makeup artist in the gang? It verges on the ludicrous to some aspects. Dr. Hodge comments come after Tokoroa lawyer Arama Naapo confirmed to Newshub that she's been asked by certain members of the mongrel mob to investigate the legality of National's plan. Any legislation that tells people what they can and cannot do with their body, in my opinion, is a clear breach of the Bill of Rights, Naapo told Newshub. I don't think you can thin Lizzy the problem that we're having relating to crime away, and it completely ignores the fact that we have lots of really serious issues in this country that can't be covered by makeup. I think that's a really interesting last comment that she makes, because we kind of talked about this through the election campaign, but so did National, about focusing on the important things. And do we really think that the incoming Minister of Police, the biggest issue on his plate should be making sure the gangs are supplied with enough makeup? Like, is that really the biggest driver for a Minister of Police to come into a new government that's been talking about how terrible the last government was to have on their plate and to be pushing through?
The other thing I want to touch on here, right, is one of the things about gangs and motorcycle clubs and that sort of thing, is they take pride in the fact that they're outlaws, like literally outside the law, outside of society. In the case of the mongrel mob, it started from people who felt that they were rejected by New Zealand society, so they don't fucking need you anymore. That's why these guys who were rebelling against their father's generation that went off and fought the Nazis decided to adopt the swastika as their symbol. It was a fuck you. Everything that they do is a fuck you to society. They will not care if you outlaw their gang patches. They want to be outside the law. If you make them more outside the law, it won't change things for them. They'll find ways to adapt, because that's what people do. And if they have no respect for what you're trying to do, well, they'll piss on that too. You're giving more power to them, to that lifestyle. They'll feel more alienated, and so they'll just go inwards. They already have their own tribe. They already have their own rules. They already have their own standards. They don't care what us normies think about them. But if we're trying to solve a gang problem, we're not talking about the gang members. We're talking about their fucking kids.
Yeah.
We have to get them out of that. That's how you do it. You talk to the women, and you try and get their kids out of it, and these guys do not understand it. It's exactly what we're talking about with Israel. That coming down hard on them is just going to make people dig in their heels. Like the other thing I want to do is I just want to talk about a little chat message I saw a little while ago. Peter Piper. Explain how you define a gang from a club. Enlighten me, Chewy. Well, see, now this is the problem. A gang can be a club, and a club can be a gang. And this is when you come in and you say that you've got anti-gang legislation. This is what you need to make clear. There is, I forget the name of it, but there is a motorcycle club of older dudes that run around. They often do charity runs and stuff like that. They have all the looks of a motorcycle gang. They take all the form of a motorcycle gang. They have a leather vest. They have an insignia. They have badges of rank. They have all of those things. They tick all the boxes for this is visually what a gang is. Thank you, chat. Yes, the Ulysses Club. A lot of them are in the Ulysses Club. They're also former motorcycle gang members that have pulled themselves out of that life and are just kind of like some of the life to remain, the riding motorbikes and looking tough. You know, you could say the same thing about, you know, Destiny's little motorcycle gang. They have all the look and form of a motorcycle club. They are aping it. A gang doesn't necessarily say that they're a gang. I grew up around a motorcycle gang. The Devil's Henchman MC motorcycle club. They had a clubhouse. They had a secretary. They had a president. They had elections. You had to pay club dues to be in it. You just can't unentangle that unless you're pointing at a police officer and going, nah, fuck it, you sort it out. Are these 50 guys riding motorcycle gangs on a charity run, or are they running meth?
That's actually a really good point, thinking about the practicality of it, because like I was thinking it's quite easy to cut apart who the gang is, and that's the criminal activity. However, if it's then down to the discretion of the police officer, and the police officer doesn't know if that group of patched motorcyclists coming into their small town, they're not going to know whether that group is necessarily a criminal entity or not. They're just going to see the patch. So that single policeman in the small town in New Zealand, if they don't know who the Ulysses Club are or whatever, see them rolling into town and basically tell them to take all their patches off, because they don't have like the direct link to Christopher Luxon to know, is this one of the bad gangs or one of the good gangs, or is this a club? They won't know. Now, probably from Parliament, you can make a determination based on criminal activity, but on the street, seeing someone in a black leather jacket with a vest on the back with stripes on the side and, you know, 4 or 5 other guys, how are they going to know necessarily? So actually that makes it harder for the police. And when Luxon goes, the police will be able to figure this out, basically. That makes it even harder because, yes, we know the big gangs, but I'm sure there's tons of regional small groups, entities, gangs that look very similar that ride motorbikes, and how will they be known out from the ones that the government says they're trying to focus on?
Yeah, Peter here is still not getting it. Like, yes, a policeman can probably look at something and go, yes, that is the bad gang in town. But what do you do from there? You can't go to court and say, this is the bad gang because I'm a policeman and I know. You have to prove it. And at the moment, this is crazy. This will blow your fucking mind. Doing crime is illegal now. It doesn't matter what you're wearing. It's the doing of the crime.
I just want to push back on one thing.
I don't know how I can break it down more simply.
But let me push back on one thing. You said that the police are going to know who, of course they're going to know who the gangs in their town are, but do you know that motorbikes can travel outside of the town? This might be a new pickup for some people. Motorbikes can go more than just the town limits. So what I was just saying is, let's say the Ulysses Club is based in, let's say Dunedin. Let's say there's a fairly young new officer in Oamaru, and they decide to drive from Dunedin to Christchurch, and they go through Oamaru, and this 19, 20-year-old police officer sees a whole bunch of people on motorbikes with patches out that aren't from his or her town, just rolling through. Then what? I don't buy that. Of course, the police are going to know who all the gangs are. Of course, okay, if it's the big ones, of course. But what if it's not? What if it's a patched up looking group of hobbyists, cosplay gang members, if you will? Then what? It's going to happen. Mark my word, it's going to happen.
Often, gang members don't wear their patch when they're doing crimes because then it leads back to the gang.
True.
Like, they're not idiots. They do dumb things, but they're not that dumb. It's just, you know, it's just laughable. And every time I see arguments like what Peter's saying, like what Luxon's saying, it's very clear that you don't know gangs, that you don't know MCs, you don't know how these people work. And I'm not professing to be an expert either. As I said, I grew up around the periphery of one. I never knew the inside of it. I didn't have any direct relatives that were in it. But a lot of their friends were. And that's where my knowledge comes from. So What we're saying is crime is bad and police should do stuff to stop crime, but they should do it in a way that doesn't infringe on people's right of expression, because that can be weaponized as someone's opinion of what a gang patch is. And you can say, oh, of course they know what a gang patch is. But do they? And is that enforceable in a law? Will that solve the problem? And my argument is it doesn't, because they're not clear enough. You can't take this to court. It's been proven not to work. It's failed before. So why are we discussing it?
Look, and finally,
you can point the police and go, stop crime. And they'll go, there's a lot of crime that comes out of gangs. Cool, stop that crime.
Finally, from me at least, I'm sure Chu have 7 other tangents. But finally, from me, I'm getting the vibe that a lot of the people who are like, yes, let's get rid of these gangs, are from the same sector of society that have just spent the past 3 years saying, don't trust the government. Don't trust the government.
Yes.
So the vibe that I'm getting is all of a sudden you're going to trust, remember, not just this government, but future governments dictating person X in New Zealand and what they can wear and where they can stand in town. Now, if you're one of the people who for the past 3 years has been going, don't trust this government, don't trust the government, and now you're like, I completely trust this government, they're the good ones. They're not.
Still the same police.
Still the same police, still the same justice system. If you're going to be someone, and just remember, when you trust things that happen on your side and you distrust things that happen on the other side, what happens is you become an ideologue and you become a hypocrite. You either trust the system wholeheartedly or you have a healthy distrust. Now, that also doesn't mean you distrust the system entirely. You have a healthy distrust for it. But that's just the point I wanted to leave us with. A lot of these people who are saying this is a good idea and the police will be able to handle it and the government will be able to figure it out, a lot of them are the same ones who have just spent us 3 years saying the government can't be trusted. I'll leave you with that.